everybody. Thank you for sticking with us through the break, and thanks to our guest right now for also sticking with us through the break, Robert Weiner, Democratic strategist, columnist, and former communications director for Clinton Drug Czar General Barry McCaffrey. So we're hopping from your college op-ed on to Liz Cheney, and basically a kind of civil war brewing in the Republican Party between the new Trumpist coalitions and the kind of older school Romney-Cheney branch. Oh, you there?
I'm here. Did you want me to comment?
Yes.
I'm happy to. Well, thanks for bringing up that subject, Joseph, and you really do a good job as an objective host, sub-host. What are we calling you? What is your title?
Guest host.
Guest host for Alan, and we love Alan and Jane and hope they're okay. So, Liz Cheney, very interesting, courageous, but suicidal. She knew that, and I think Kevin McCarthy's point has validity to it. She just wouldn't, and some other Republican strategies, she wouldn't stop talking about it and talking about it and talking about it. What she's saying is absolutely correct, and I'm convinced, and so are most people, that 2/3 of the Republican caucus agrees with her points. But to create the feud the way that she has over and over inside the party once she's made her point cost her her job. And I think she may have a long-term future. You know, Murkowski, they dumped her in Alaska, and she ran as an independent and became stronger and then caucused with the Republicans. So I've said to my friends at the National Press Club over and over, she's got to pull a Murkowski. And finally, Carly Fiorina said that on CNN, and I said, see, I said that 2 days ago to you guys. So that's what probably will happen with her if they try to take her nomination away from her. But they're not taking her congressional seat. They're just taking her leadership position away from her. So she's probably going to be something like a Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's an absolute idiot in her own way and a QAnon. And that's not what Liz Cheney is, but they'll probably do the same thing to her and ostracize her, but she still can have national press for what she does. And that's what I see happening. Absolutely truth to power and courage. She'll probably get the profile, you know, the Kennedy Profile and Courage Award and all of that for what she's done.
Will we be seeing more of this from disaffected Republicans then, who are just not satisfied with the way their party is going, becoming independent, maybe forming their own party? Call it the Lincoln Party, for example, in honor of the Lincoln Project, which was composed of people who did much the same thing.
Well, I agree. Adam Kinzinger has spoken out in support of her, but I haven't heard much else. Other than all over the country, not inside the Beltway. All over the country, there's obviously strong support for her position. I honestly don't believe, Joseph, that the majority of Republicans who tell pollsters that they believe the election was rigged think so. I think they're spoofing the pollsters. If Gallup or somebody could do a measurement on that and ask, are you being serious or are you spoofing the pollster to make a message? I bet you'd get an enormous percent that would admit to it, even though there'd still be some who wouldn't. So I think that's what's going on. I think that's even in Trump's mind what's going on. It's a spoof and campaign tactic, much like Obama wasn't born in the United States when he showed the birth certificate from Hawaii. So I think that's what's going on in a rational way. I think everybody knows that there were 60 court cases. All of them that denied Trump and said that they were certified and recertified, and the audit was audited and re-audited by responsible people, not somebody in Arizona who's looking for bamboo in the ballots and using blue ink to doctor ballots written in blue. So and the courts are going to throw those out. They're going to stop the legitimacy of that process in Arizona. So I think that's really what's going on. I'm all for when Republicans win. Hey, the Bushes, Reagan, you mentioned Lincoln. There are Republican heroes, absolute Republican heroes, like there are Democratic heroes. But this stuff is anathema to me and to anyone who believes in democracy. Biden lost closer than anybody wants to admit, 40,000 in 3 states. But 40,000 in 3 states was a loss. And, of course, he did lose Biden won, and then Trump did lose the Electoral College by the same margin that he beat Hillary. And the popular vote, he went down from 3 million to 7 million loss. So, that's the reality of what happened. And even Boehner, the former Speaker of the House, is out there saying it was BS. So Cheney is costing herself her job But I believe that history will be in her corner for what she has done in this case.
I think part of it, too, is just sort of an outrage against the stale old faces who've lost elections in the past, like the Romney branch of the party, the Karl Rove branch, and all that stuff. Because, the Republicans are seeing, well, Trump, boisterous and full of it as he is, he managed to win. He actually fought back, whereas, folks like Mitt Romney, they're out there saying he killed his dog or whatever by towing him on the top of his car, and he didn't really have much of a fight in him.
Right. Here's the thing, and I did a piece in the Des Moines Register, which they ran. The Comey vote made the difference. Hillary was 10 up, and then the day after, and then Robbie Mook, Hillary's manager, said that we were right in what we said. The polling showed that there was a flip of 10 points the minute that Comey went out there and said we are reinvestigating 10 days before the election. And then, little known and not noticed, about 3 days before, he said, and never mind, that was duplicative of what we'd already found before. So that Comey announcement at the end made all the difference in Hillary losing that election. That doesn't mean that Trump didn't win it legitimately. He did. But what happened, and it's in Hillary's book, and I had said it before it went into Hillary's book, that because I knew Giuliani from when I was chief of staff of the House Aging Committee, and he was a hero in terms of what he did to fight nursing home abuse and mobs and gangs in New York. So what Giuliani did was, as a prosecutor, when he was a prosecutor, he made friends with that FBI office in New York, and he called up his friends, and they called Comey and got Comey to make that announcement. And that's how it happened. So that's why, and nobody realizes this, that's why Trump has kept Giuliani as a friend forever. That is why he is strong for Giuliani. That's why it's one of his few enduring, even right as Giuliani was being indicted, Trump goes and says this was outrageous and hypocritical, all that BS, that he has kept Giuliani as a friend. So that's the deal on that one, in my view.
Wow, that doesn't make Comey look good from now bipartisanly, because first you had Republicans who were angry at him for earlier in that year seemingly to follow what Obama said about whether or not Hillary Clinton's email scandal, whether or not that was a crime. And then now you have, so that's the anger from the right. Now you have the anger from the left on how Comey basically cost the election. I don't think anyone's going to be buying his book.
Well, both are true. This. Comey is an absolute mixed bag. And so there's people are, and you're right about that. There is strange action on both sides from Comey. What he also wanted to do is he did not want to look like in the end that he was costing. That he was costing the election for Trump, so he went out at the end and made up to his Republican friends, and he's left as no man. He's left as a man without a country, is I think where Comey is right now. So you're absolutely right about that.
Now, is this a lesson that folks like Liz Cheney and Mitt Romney should take into account, because they already have much ire from the left? I'm just in between the breaks, I was looking up Liz Cheney, some info on her, so I would be briefed and ready to go. And I saw an old article from, I think it was Jacobin in 2017, saying Liz Cheney wants to make torture great again. So already the left has some ire against her. Now she's alienating folks on the right.
She is a very conservative person who voted more with Trump than Lisa Stefanik, who's going to be her replacement, did, by about 15 points. That's right. Very conservative, and Cheney is the one who justified torture. I loved how people traced police brutality and said that they got some answers, but it never was by torture. It was by schmoozing, and the same thing. There's a documentary on CNN about the Ritchie boys, they called it, who used intel to get information from the German war criminals and who they captured, and they said they never did it with torture and they never did it with brute force. They did it by bonding and discussing, and yes, some duplicitousness in terms of pretending they were Russians, who the Germans hated more than the Americans, but never by torture. Never, ever by torture. So torture has never worked, and Barry McCaffrey, who, as you mentioned, I worked for 6.5 years in the White House, well, 5.5 after Lee Brown, he is big against torture, the four-star general, and their United States should lead by example and not torture. Vice President Cheney will have that as his legacy, and somehow he never got investigated for it. Somehow it all was declared national security, but it was very, very wrong that the United States tortured.
I would agree with that. Statistically, torture doesn't really work anyway, and as you said, and just people will break and confess to whatever the heck you want them to. We should have learned that lesson, frankly, from the NKVD in the Soviet Union in the 1930s. Well, final word on that, Bob Weiner.
Unless you're John McCain, and then you don't cave.
Right. All right, Bob Weiner, thank you very much for joining us today on the Al Nathan Show. But listeners, stick around. We have more to come still.